Hello everybody, it is Jo here from Daisy, and today I'm going to be brainstorming weekly spreads. I see a lot in our community people asking how to set up the weekly or what the best weekly spread is for them. So I'm going to be using a tool called Weekly Boxes, which actually first appeared in our And So the Adventure Begins big one subscription box. We've slightly changed it, we've simplified it. It's now just 4 pocket stencils, but the idea of this is that it's going to help you set up a lot of different weekly spreads, lots of different variations of layout, but make it really simple for you. So let's have a look at the spread ideas I've got. So inside my journal, this is an A5 journal, but the idea of these weekly boxes is that it can be used with both an A5 and a B5 journal. We've got 4 different stencils, as I said, and they can be used in slightly different ways. I'm going to show you some spreads, and I'm going to show you which stencils I use to create them and how you can recreate them across a B5 journal as well as this one. So this is one of the Daisy journals. It's a brand new one that I'm going to be using for some research and development. And the very first style of weekly spread is this one here. So it's a little bit controversial in that I would say this is a vertical weekly spread because the week is going vertically down the page. I know a lot of people call this a horizontal weekly spread because the days, the boxes are longer horizontally than they are vertically. But whatever you want to call it, basically the week is going down the page. And how I've created this one is using this stencil. And this stencil is the reason why I wanted to create this set of stencils in the first place. It's also why I wanted to take it from being a set of stencils that we included in our quarterly box to being one that is permanently on the shop. For purely selfish reasons, because this is the spread that I use most in my journal. So if you can see, this stencil here has got 2 boxes. You've got a smaller and a larger version of the same thing. This one here is for your A5 journal, and this one here is to create exactly the same spread in a B5 journal. So all we've got is 7 boxes down the page, 1 for each day of the week, and then you can use this space here for a to-do list, for notes, for habit trackers, anything you want. You can also make it a double page version of this by putting this either on the left hand side here or the right hand side here, and then you've got the whole rest of a double page spread for rapid tracking throughout the week, or for basically anything you want to do, long form journaling. This is really my favourite layout of a weekly spread. So that's number 1, and that is using this one here. Number 2 is the opposite way. So I personally would call this a horizontal weekly spread because it's going horizontally across the double page spread. But I know some people call this a vertical weekly because the boxes are longer vertically than they are horizontally. Whatever you want to call it, it is the spread that is going across a double page. And there's 2 different, well, actually the 3 different stencils that we would use to create this. In A5 format, it's this one here to create the longer boxes. So this is this box here, and this box here to create the half size boxes for the weekend so that it all fits across a double page spread. If you're using a B5 journal, you've got a slightly larger version of this. So let's compare them next to each other. This and this. And then the slightly larger of the 2 boxes on this stencil to create this. So within the 4 stencils that you get in the set, you can create all of the spreads we're going to create in both A5 and B5, which is very handy because if, like me, you switch between an A5 and a B5 journal backwards and forwards, it means you haven't got to buy different versions of the thing in order to use it in both journal sizes, which is really handy. So this is our kind of basic across 2 pages spread, and let's go into some more complex things. So This is a week on a page, and I've made this using the smaller box. If you were doing it on a B5, you would do it using the bigger box. It's the box that you've used here. So we've got a space for every day and then combined space for the weekend. And then underneath you might do notes. You maybe would put your event for the day or appointments in here, and then any notes underneath. You could use this to put your big 3 tasks for the day, and anything else could go underneath. The way you actually use the structure really depends on what you need from your journal. But this is a nice single page weekly spread setup using the box. We've then got a slightly different variation of that, where I've got a whole week on a page, but a box for each day. So larger boxes for Monday through to Friday, smaller boxes for Saturday, Sunday. You could split that up in different ways depending on how your week looks. And I've done that using this one, which is our A5 for these, and this one, which has an A5 for these. If you were doing this spread in a B5 journal, you'd use the larger box and the larger box here. So that's your week on a page. Slightly different spread here. This is a week across 2 pages, but we've split each day. It's actually 6 days across 2 pages. We'll split each day into 4 boxes. Now, I thought this would be really useful to use for a meal planner spread. So perhaps you'd put whatever you're doing that day across the top, and then breakfast, lunch, dinner in the boxes below. And you've got a little bit of room here. You could put washi tape to decorate it, or you can add little notes underneath. Really, that's down to you. It does just track across 6 days. If you wanted, you could split up Saturday into, so there's just 2 boxes for each. Perhaps you're not so strict with meal planning for one of the days across the week, in which case you wouldn't include them. But that's just a slightly different usage of the smaller boxes, which are on this one. We then have some slightly more complicated spread setups. Now, this used to be one of my absolute favourite ways to lay out a month, because we've got a whole big section for tasks. You've got your habit trackers, you've got a notes area, and then we've got this little flippy window in the middle where you can put all of your events across the month. So week 1, 2, 3, and 4 for the month. And that has been made using this one here. And if you were doing it in a B5 journal, you'd use the larger version. This is a Dutch door monthly spread. Obviously, this area here and this area here can be used for whatever you choose to use them for. So it's very, very flexible. I've just added some bits in to kind of demonstrate how I would use those pages. But the main structure is that you've got this kind of flip through booklet section in the middle, which allows the whole month to be planned out in one go. And then if you maybe work from one task list throughout the month rather than making a new one every week, this saves you having to copy the tasks over every week. You can kind of keep working from that same task list. It also means you can see your habit tracker that I've made using our washi tape for the whole month. So you don't have to keep creating weekly habit trackers. You've got everything for the month ahead. And the final spread that I've created with this little set of stencils is our weekly Dutch door. And I've done that by creating the week across 2 pages, which was the spread, if you remember, that we created right at the beginning, one of our 2 most basic layouts. And then I've created it into a Dutch door by cutting across here, and then I've actually flipped the piece that moves and I've glued it down. So nothing has been removed from the booklet, which means that you don't get any kind of dips by creating a Dutch door. But it gives you extra pieces here, so you can see the whole week and you can maybe plan out the priority tasks for each day, or the events that you have, or appointments for each day. But then each day in the week gets a whole half page in order to give you more room for notes or doodles or anything that you need to take down. With all of my Dutch doors, I have rounded off the corners, and I've done that using one of these. Now, my top tip for using a corner cutter, because I had a lot of problems with this when I first started, is when you're cutting anything with it, and I'll just demonstrate with this, I'm not going to cut it. Use it upside down, because it allows you to see if you've put this piece in straight. So rather than kind of do it and then end up with a wonky corner or a janky corner, if you go right in and you can see that it's square and then press down, you know you're going to always end up with a nice pro round off corner like this, which is much nicer to look at. So that's just a few ideas. The main thing with this is that it's going to give you the structure for your weekly. How you decide to decorate it is then up to you. So it makes the structural bit really easy, and then you can add stickers or washi tape, or you can leave it basic like this. So you haven't got any decoration. That's down to you. You could choose to obviously switch sides. So that's on this side. You can put all of this at the bottom of the page or perhaps in the middle of the page. There's lots of little change arounds that you can do, but with the basic 4 stencils in the weekly boxes set, you've got a bunch of different options of how to lay out your weekly spreads. Within the set, we also add in our handy postcard, which has got some ideas for how you would lay out your page and what boxes are sized to what size journal, as you can see. And this also will take you to our Smart Tools page, where you'll see all the resources and images to do with any of our 5 Smart Tool setups. And within the set, you also get this handy pocket, which is A6 in size. Now, the best thing about this is that it has adhesive strips on the back, which means that you can stick this in the front of your journal and then keep your weekly boxes stencils in there, so you can very quickly set up your weekly with you on the go. They're all stored nicely, and that's why we call it a smart journaling system. So if you think that's useful, I'd love to know below which of these spreads you would use as your go-to. Do you call it horizontal or do you call it vertical? And yeah, your favourite way of decorating your spreads. And if you've made it to the end of this little video, please drop us a little purple heart emoji, and we would be very appreciative if you'd click subscribe and follow the channel. Take care. Bye bye bye.